Good afternoon, I'm Josh Johnson. I'm a civil engineer. I work for Allie Williams, Carmen, and King in the city of Mebane. I'm here to talk about the city stormwater program and how the engineering department oversees the stormwater program and works with the city of Mebane on it. I've been working in Alamance County for 18 years. I grew up here and been working with the city of Mebane for almost that long. So the city's stormwater program includes several different regulatory programs. All the programs are basically intended to promote water quality, control floodplains, and flooding. The programs are the MS4 Stormwater Program, which is a federally required program, which we're going to talk about today, the Floodplain Program, the Riparian Buffer Program, and the Water Supply Watershed Program. The MS4, or the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Program, it's a big word, it means stormwater. That program includes provisions in it to talk about whenever you disturb more than an acre. When you disturb more than an acre, then we start worrying about what's the water quality and the runoff off of those projects. The city requires stormwater control measures on a lot of those projects that exceed 24% impervious. Impervious is basically a big word for built upon area, and built upon area is rooftops, roads, parking lots, anything that's hard that makes water run off faster. Water lands on grass and trees, mostly soaks in, some of it runs off. Water lands on built upon area, runs off at a much higher rate. When it runs off, that water contains pollutants. It can contain oil, fertilizer, and lots of different pollutants that are natural, they're present in our environment. When we increase the amount of water, we increase the amount of runoff and the amount of pollutants that can go downstream. The first flush is the first inch of rain, and that contains 90% of the pollutants. So when we build stormwater control measures, we want to treat that first flush, or that first 1 inch of runoff. In Mebane, we have quite a few different options when it comes to stormwater control measures. Some of them are your typical water quality ponds. We can have a stormwater wetland, we have a dry detention basin, bioretention basins, and underground stormwater systems. We're here at the Mebane Community Park. We've got several different here. Right now behind me is a bioretention basin. Over on the other side of the park, there's an underground storage device. And then there's also a pond on the other side. And the bioretention basin behind me you can look at it, it looks grassed and it looks like a normal area. But in reality, underneath the ground, when water hits it, it goes through and it filters out. So stormwater control measures, or SCMs, do work really well for filtering out stormwater pollutants. And it works through either sedimentation, like a pond, where the pollutants and the sediment falls out of it, or it works through like a bioretention basin, where it goes through special media, which is basically sand, and it soaks through it, and then when it does, it pulls out all the pollutants. And then the water comes out the other end and it's clean, or it soaks into the ground. Another benefit to stormwater control measures is they can reduce downstream flows, which prevents flooding associated with new development. In the city of Mebane, the requirement on projects that trigger the stormwater control measures is that they have to match the pre-development runoff rate for the 10-year storm. In certain circumstances, we can go higher than that, and in certain circumstances, we can require our projects to address those even when they don't disturb an acre. Stormwater control measures are usually owned by the HOA or by the private company who had to build them for the development. Since we're in the park, these stormwater control measures are owned by the city of Mebane. If you're in an industrial development, they're owned by the industrial development. If you're owning a subdivision, then it's owned by the HOA. Those parties are required to maintain them, and they're required to have them inspected once a year. If you look around, kind of behind me and around, you'll see that this one looks pretty good. It looks like it's got good growth of grass on it. You don't see any trees growing up on it or any weeds. Sometimes when you go and you do that inspection, you see things that shouldn't be in a pond, or perhaps they need to be maintained. And so as we progress and as we work through those problems or those issues with the HOAs or with the property owners of the SCMs, we work through having a more attractive SCM, but also a more functional SCM. A more functional SCM protects water quality better, and also is less of a eyesore or less of a hindrance to the public. In Mebane, in addition to that, in Mebane we require ponds to have fences, is that prevents anybody from getting into them or any issues with access to them.
In Mebane, is there one SCM that is the most commonly used or popular?
Yes, a lot of times we see ponds because they can reduce the flooding downstream, or they can address those peak flows. Who's the second most popular is a bioretention. So we see a lot of ponds and a lot of bioretention basins. The biggest concern that we have is ongoing maintenance of stormwater control measures. We worry about trees getting on dams. We worry about trash or debris getting in ponds and industrial settings. Generally speaking, they're designed so that the maintenance can be addressed more easily, especially as we've become better at designing them as an industry. We're not quite there yet as far as it being perfect, but that's the reason we do the annual maintenance requirements.
And with the annual maintenance requirements, who goes out and checks?
So they're required to be inspected by a certified inspector, and then they submit their inspection reports to us, and then we review them. If there's anything that we see as a problem on the reports, then we go out and we'll check it, and then we also check them periodically. We check all of them periodically every couple of years. In closing, SCMs can be ugly, but they don't have to be, and they can be functional and look good at the same time. And when they're functional, they preserve water quality, which can lead to a positively charming future.